And welcome back to Under Center with Kirk Cousins. And Kirk, we have a very special guest, one of your best friends in studio, Kyle Rudolph. 9 years with the Minnesota Vikings. My goodness, how time has flown by. And so immersed in this community, a big part of the Twin City area, and of course with this football team. And Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be in here with you guys.
Yeah, thrilled to have you on. So
it's great to have you in there. I mean, first of all, let's talk about the game on Sunday. The shootout in Detroit and your impact on the game. And did you have a sense that it was going to be one of those type games from the get-go?
You know, we knew. Kevin talked to us the night before at the hotel, and he told us, you know, whoever plays harder longer is going to win this game. And he was exactly right. It was a 60 minutes shootout, hard-fought game, and that's what you get when you go on the road in this division. You know, my opinion, it's the toughest division in football, and it was important for us to not go 0-3 on the road in this division.
That's right.
So that was a big one for us to go over there and get in Detroit yesterday.
Well, Rudy played through some stuff yesterday, showed a lot of toughness, and he did have one great touchdown that really helped ice the game. He probably could have had 2 or 3 more. There were a couple where he was pretty open and we could have made it happen, but unfortunately we didn't connect. But he's just done a phenomenal job this year with all that we've asked him to do, and he's so versatile. And I'm not just saying this because he's on the show. He is the smartest player I've ever played with. And by smart, he's certainly intelligent, but there's a football awareness smart. And for me, I'll go to him on the sideline, like yesterday when the Lions are driving and we have, I believe it was an 11-point lead. He's the guy I go to say, all right, so situationally they got this many timeouts, so what do you do here, and then what do we have to do in response, and how do we handle the clock? And I don't even go to coaches, I go to Rudy.
Interesting.
And then the other piece that's interesting is, you know, when you get in the fire, sometimes the moment can be too big for people, especially young players. You know, they got to play their way through sometimes, and year 2, year 3, they start to lock in. Rudy's a guy that, even for me as an 8-year player, he's like a steadying presence in the huddle. Like, even if he doesn't have a catch, even if he, you know, statistically may be quiet that day, the impact he has on me, on the huddle, on just the operation, it's not too big for him. And it's just very steady. And that's one of those things that's hard to define, but when you're that aware, I don't know how to use it, I just say he's a smart player. It's hard to articulate. And so, and then in addition to the intelligence, to the awareness, he has the best hands I've ever played with. And I play with some players with great hands, but it's pretty unbelievable the catches he makes. And I've said this again and again, but I have to trust him more because he can catch anything. And so even when he's covered, I'll say no to him, and then I'll go back and look at the picture of the film and say, you know what, I just need to force it in there and just drive the ball to him because he'll make me right. And so that's my little spiel on Rudy. But, you know, I had him in here. I had to brag on him. And sometimes when you do a press conference, you don't get the chance to just brag on him. So I had to do that.
Yet Sunday's game was really the first chance, I think. Did you sense something when we were breaking down film, both Kirk and Kyle, leading into this game, that you were going to have more chances to catch the ball? Because it's been pretty quiet. There's only one football, as they say, and you've been able to spread it around pretty well.
Well, I think, you know, Kirk mentioned about, you know, whether it's calmness or patience, just a presence in a huddle. It's something, when you've played for 9 years, you've pretty much seen it all. You've been through it all. And, you know, early on in my career, you know, I would get a little anxious. I would get a little bit of anxiety, you know, when first quarter, second quarter goes by, you haven't touched the ball yet, and you're like, oh, man, like – and you just learn that it's going to come at some point. And throughout my career, I've really tried to – they say it all the time, control what you can control. And for me, it's just letting the game play out as it is. You never know when your opportunity is going to be called. But when it is called, you want to make the most of it. You don't want to squander it because you've been anxious about when that moment was going to come. And, you know, for us this season, through the first 7 games, my role has been different. You know, we've got, in my opinion, the best running back in football. He has more rushing yards than half the league, than 16 teams.
It's unbelievable.
So Dalvin's been running the ball phenomenal, and then obviously we've got 2 incredibly talented wide receivers, and, you know, got to get the ball in their hands. And, you know, unfortunately, Adam goes down early in the game yesterday, and we played the game in a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets, and Diggsy was Diggsy and made unbelievable plays, and it was just one of those games where the target share for the tight ends went up just based on the fact that we had to get the ball somewhere. And with
Right.
Adam going down, you had to get it to the tight ends.
And he tends to have success at Ford Field. I don't know what it is against the
Ford
Lions.
Field. Detroit's been very good to me.
If
I don't
there
know.
was any hunch that I had, it was just because, hey, we're going to Detroit, playing at Ford Field. It seems like it's one way or another, Rudy gets the ball. And I also thought, play calling helps. We just seem to have more opportunities. And when we were in 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, instead of just running it with Dalvin, a couple times we called play actions. And that's going to give us more opportunities to push the ball downfield. And it's hard to put a metric on what Rudy and the other tight ends are doing for us in pass protection, because so many of our play actions have been the key to our successes in offense, and most of those play actions, if not all, require a tight end to stay in and protect to sell the run. And so you got to have somebody do it, and Rudy's obviously the guy we trust the most. And so sometimes he's the sacrificial lamb, if you will, because he's having to be the one protecting because we trust him the most to be the guy to do that.
Kyle, Kirk mentioned you have the best hands for anyone he's played with. I mean, that doesn't come by accident. How much work have you poured into that aspect of your game?
Well, I do need to interrupt. When you have hands this good, you're born with them.
Are you?
I was going to say, part of it is just
hands,
you can work on it.
Holy cow!
Part of it is just being born with these mitts. And the other part of it is just, to be quite honest, as a kid, that was all we did. Like, you go out in the yard and you throw the ball around, and it's baseball, it's basketball, it's playing catch football, and just when you're always doing things that require hand-eye coordination, pass catching has always been something that's come naturally to me.
He's a hand-eye guy, so you put a ball in his hands, he's gonna
whatever
natural,
sport.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Talk a little bit about your basketball days. I didn't even realize. I knew with your frame and obviously you were recruited in basketball. I think it was a conversation we had when I first got here in free agency, but. I didn't realize Tom Izzo offered you.
Yeah,
I didn't realize, I think Kentucky even was interested. And so talk a little about that process of even deciding to play football.
It's funny, I tell people all the time, I'm not really sure how it happened. My freshman and sophomore year of high school, I was dead set. I visited all the Carolina schools. My family's
Which is really cool, by the way.
My family's had Kentucky season tickets forever. And, I say all the time, had Coach Calipari been at Kentucky when I was in high school and not after I got to college, it would have been really hard for me to not go an hour and 15 minutes south of home and play basketball UK, where my family has had season tickets forever. My great uncle's number is retired at Rupp.
Wow.
I joke all the time, just somewhere between my sophomore and junior year, I was sitting in Coach Tressel's office at Ohio State, and he's like, I heard you're going to be a basketball player. And I was like, yes. And he said, you ever thought about playing both? And I was like, yeah, maybe. And then once that year, and I tell people all the time, the recruiting process then was different. When we were getting recruited, you couldn't get an official scholarship offer until September 1 of your junior year in football.
I didn't even know that. I didn't have that problem. But my man Rudy, he had 2 sports with that problem.
In basketball, they could have a 7th grader that they want to offer a scholarship for.
We've seen it, sure.
And now, since football has changed and they've removed that rule, and you can be offered at any time. But so for me, the recruiting process really picked up going into my junior year for football.
Just think if you had accepted Izzo's offer, you could have been at Michigan State instead of Notre Dame.
It's funny, in talking about basketball, Notre Dame basketball recruited me before Notre Dame football did. Again,
that's a great program.
The timing is just different. So Coach Bray recruited me, and he sent an assistant coach down to one of my games as a sophomore. And I remember telling my parents, like, how cool would it be to play basketball at Notre Dame? Because I love football too, and you have such a rich history and tradition in the football program. I was like, that'd be cool. I could go to all the football games and get to play basketball at Notre Dame, get a Notre Dame education. And then sure enough, I ended up going there to play football. So.
He's a pretty smart guy, as I talked about earlier. So he looked at the options, and he said, Charlie Weiss, NFL offense, chance to play with some playmakers, push the ball down the field, and it worked out. I mean, when you go play there for 3 years and you're done and you're a second-round pick and you have a 9-year career, I think you made the right decision.
So it's hard to go back and look now.
Counting.
Well, now that I understand why you're such good friends with Karl Anthony Towns, because of your Kentucky background.
Yes, absolutely. It was great when we drafted Karl number 1. Exciting guy to have here in the Twin Cities, and, I mean, as talented as they come. I think he's really one of the best young players in the game. And I'm just a basketball nut, so I'm looking forward to going down and checking the Wolves out in the home opener on Sunday against the Heat.
That's awesome. Now talk about, you're talking about, Timberwolves fan. You stay here all summer. When we have time off, you stay here all winter. You're, building your forever home here. Talk about life as a Minnesotan, that process of going from a rookie who I don't think had spent any time here
Never.
to building it to become likely your forever home.
Well, and when you spend almost a decade in one place, Jordan and myself are both from the Midwest. She's a West Michigander.
That's right.
Southwest Michigan. I'm from Cincinnati, so we both grew up in the Midwest, and then neither one of us had ever been to Minnesota before we came here as drafted by the Vikings. But we've just fallen in love with the place. The people here are phenomenal. They're as nice as they come. Having all three of our kids here, our kids have been born here and will be raised here. And the school systems are phenomenal. There's nothing more that I enjoy than going out, whether it's in Wayzata where we live or going downtown. The people are just so nice, whether it's after a huge win or after a tough loss in season. You go out in public, and if it's after a tough loss, all they're talking about is next week. And, we'll get them next week. Don't worry about it. And, that's just something that I appreciate so much about the Twin Cities and the state of Minnesota.
Is the lifestyle, your lifestyle and your family's lifestyle situation also important in the context of understanding the NFL is a business, and you had to make a business decision, sort of the Vikings, as far as staying here, reviewing your deal, wanting to be a Minnesota Viking for life?
No doubt. And it's hard when business gets in the way of things. We all play this game because we love it. But with that being said, there are business decisions that have to be made in this game, and we're just incredibly fortunate to have been in one place for 9 years. It doesn't happen often in this league, but what the Will family and Rick Spielman and everybody's done in this organization to keep us here for 9 years, we're forever indebted to them, because this has now become our home. A lot of the things that we do in the community is because this is home for us now, and we're so passionate about the Twin Cities and about this community, and it's because we've been here for 9 years, and our roots just keep getting deeper and deeper here.
Can you share a little bit about what you've done over the last 9 years as far as getting involved in the community? What has been your passion, your wife's passion, some of the different projects you've done? I know it's a variety of things, but can you just share a little bit?
Yeah, one of the things when I came here as a 21-year-old, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed rookie was, I was around guys like Steve Hutchinson, Chad Greenway, John Sullivan, guys that were already doing incredible things in this community. And for me, whether it was Community Tuesdays here with the team or when teammates would have their charity events, if it was a Lead the Way event, if Steve Hutchinson was hosting an event at the hospital, it was important for me to be there. And I wanted to do as many things as I could and really find out what I was passionate about. A lot of people know my family story with my brother having beat pediatric cancer. So kids and pediatrics have always been something that's near and dear to our heart. But it really wasn't until I got down to Masonic Children's Hospital and started spending time with those patients and the families that I really knew this is what I want to do. There's so many other things that we, get our hands in on, whether it's the Starkey Foundation here in Eden Prairie. Matter is another great organization that we work with here. And there's so many things here in the Twin Cities, and so many people are doing so many great things that we just try to support everyone. And honestly, it's great because our organization has created that culture in our locker room, and we have so many guys on our team that are doing so many great things in this community. It's fun to go out and support them.
Kirk,
too.
I don't know if you got a chance to see the video, and it gave me goosebumps. I get goosebumps thinking about it when you were reading the letters from the kids that sent you.
That was really well done.
Thank you. Wasn't that something? I mean, that was so touching, and the expression on your face said it all, what it meant to you and your family.
Yeah, and like I said, when you do work with the hospital, or there were so many, it was such a wide spectrum of people that wrote letters, and you almost take it for granted. You just do what you do, and you serve others, and for us as athletes with a huge platform, we don't ever expect anything in return. I tell people all the time, when I go to the hospital and I visit the patients, selfishly, I think I get more out of it than they do. You leave there, and whether it's a parent or the patient or a nurse or a doctor, they tell you how much it means to that patient that you were there. And I always tell them immediately that, you have no idea what this patient just did for me. And, oftentimes we're going in on a Tuesday during the season. We had a great game, big win, you're emotional about it, or it was a tough loss and, the world's ending. Well, then you sit there next to a bedside and you get to know a patient and their family, and it's like, no, my perspective is all off.
Amen. Well, when you get that involved in the community, it's not only making a difference for the people in the community and then obviously blessing him and his family as well with what they're able to gain from a perspective, but it makes a difference for our locker room because I think young players come in, and I'm speaking from my experience when I was a young player, and you look at the guys who have stayed here 9 years, had success, been to Pro Bowls, and you say, how does he do things? And I'm going to copy that. That's just common sense. Well, when you have a guy who does things the right way, outside the building and inside the building, it transforms your locker room because now your younger players you're drafting are figuring out how to do things correctly. And they're not watching a bad example, they're watching a good example. And so, again, there's intrinsic value in what Rudy brings to our team far beyond what people even see just because of the way he goes about his business. And one of those things, I noticed you're 7th all-time in Vikings history on receptions. Obviously, that's because of a lot of production, but one of the keys people don't realize is staying healthy. It's huge. You can't be 7th all-time if you're missing time. And so talk a little bit about, and again, knock on wood, but talk a little bit about staying healthy and just your process of taking care of your body and what that looks like.
Well, the first thing I always tell people when they ask, how do you do it? What's your routine? I always tell people in this game, the number one thing that has to happen is you have to have good luck.
Yeah, amen.
You have to have good luck. And, I think back to early in my career, 2013, through the 8th game of the season, we were playing in Dallas, and, I was off to statistically one of my best starts of the year. And I catch a touchdown pass from Christian Ponder, break a tackle on the way into the end zone, and sure enough, the guy falls on my foot and it breaks. There's nothing that you could have done, prehab-wise, strength and conditioning, massage, no matter what you do to take care of your body. In this game, there's collisions, and there's a lot of collisions, and bodies are flying. If someone falls on you, there's nothing you can do about it. With that being said, I do feel like as you get older, you find out what your body needs on a weekly basis to get ready to play on Sundays, but also in the off season. What do you have to do in February and March to recover from the longest season that we've played in our careers? Or what do I have to do now to set myself up as OTAs approach, as we're on our 5-week summer break? What do I have to do to get ready for training camp?
It's year round.
And I think you kind of learn the calendar dictates what time it is and what I'm supposed to be doing.
Is that recovery issue for both of you accelerated because, the NFL likes Thursday night football games. You have one of them this week, so you don't have a lot of time to deal with a lot of that.
Yeah, it's interesting on when you play these Thursday night games. It's funny, we come in on a Monday, and normally on a Monday it's just get your workout in, get in the tub, watch the tape from yesterday and kind of put to bed the things that we need to improve on. And then you're thinking about what am I going to do tomorrow on my day off? And today is a Monday, Tuesday, and by the end of the day, it'll be Wednesday evening as we're finishing up our first and second down game plan. So everything's accelerated a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting ready for a big one Thursday night. After this game, we're halfway in the regular season. Hopefully we're not halfway when it comes to the full slate of work. But big one Thursday night. I'm really excited to get back home and have a chance to get to 6-2. But just talk about, Rudy, your thoughts going into Thursday night's game.
Well, it's interesting. You look at the last 2 times we were in the playoffs and where we were through 4 games in both 15 and 17 and where we were at the halfway point. In both of those years, we started the year 2-2. In both of those years through the halfway point, we were 6-2. And with a win on Thursday night, that will put us at 6-2 through the halfway point. So it's huge for us on a short week to just empty the bucket, as they say. Like, we got to go all in and just do everything that we have to do to make sure that come Thursday night when it's zeros on the clock, we've done everything to leave with a win.
With a short week, I always remind myself, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are coming.
Yes.
Where we can rest. So put in the work today. I'm used to easing back into the work week, Monday and Tuesday being days to kind of catch your breath, and then you hit the ground running Wednesday. We're hitting the ground running Monday, so you really understand, hey, the weekend's coming. We'll be able to rest then, give everything you got so that through Thursday you're going to be happy with what you did.
We're speaking with Kyle Rudolph. And Kyle, having said that, is in your eyes, after being here for 9 years, is this potentially the most versatile offensive team you've been a part of?
Oh, no doubt. This is definitely the most talented offensive team that I've been on. And I touched upon Dalvin a little bit earlier, having more rushing yards than half of the league right now.
Wow.
It's incredible. And, that's just one piece. Alexander Madison is one of the more talented rookie running backs I've ever seen. Sometimes he makes runs, and all of a sudden, until I see the number 25, I think it's Dalvin. And then you realize, no, that was Matty. And then you get into the receiver room, and everyone knows about Thielen and Diggs, but rookie wide receiver Olabisi Johnson. I mean, he just seems, when his number's called upon, he makes big catches. In our room, you have Irv and Conk, and I think Conk's a guy that never really gets enough credit because he kind of just does everything good. He's thrown in there for run blocking, he's thrown in there for pass protection. If you need him to run around and catch the ball, he's shown in the preseason that he can do it. You add all those skill players around Kirk and what he's been able to do this season. It's always fun. You got to throw the offensive line out there. We can't just talk about skill players all the time. Our offensive linemen, whether they're getting fired up to bagpipes in the pregame or, it's just so fun to see those guys coming off the field after a big drive. And those guys are having a ton of fun right now.
And let's face it, there's no place like home. When you have to play a Thursday night game, much better being at U.S. Bank Stadium than having to travel to Washington, as it turns out this week.
No doubt. And, our last Thursday night game was in L.A. So, you talk about playing a tough game on Sunday and then, we were leaving on Tuesday for the game already. So at least we do have that fortune of being home on Thursday night.
Absolutely. No, I can't say enough about the depth of our team and the difference that makes. I mean, think about what Mike Boone did in the preseason running the football. I think there's a lot of football teams right now that would like Mike Boone on their team. And then you think about what BC Johnson did. Conk is a guy that we trust, and that's not easily earned, to have your third tight end be someone that you trust to do a variety of things, running routes, protecting, run blocking. We have him play Y, U, F, multiple tight end positions. And so when you can have down-the-line guys, in theory, who you trust to get the job done in a variety of ways, it gives your play caller and your system, and speaking for myself, the quarterback, a lot of confidence, a lot of freedom to keep defenses guessing as to what's coming next.
Kyle, on behalf of all the Twin Cities Viking fans and outside the area as well, thanks for all your contributions off the field, and good luck on Thursday and for the rest of the season, of course.
Thanks, Rosie. It's our pleasure.
Well, Rudy, thanks for coming on the show. I do need to say in closing, when I have a tough game, as we had a couple early this year, I always remind myself, play for the long game. It's kind of like the stock market. You don't look every day, every month, every year.
Unless you're Slaughter.
Unless you're Kyle Slaughter, you might look every day. But you look
that must be an inside joke.
Yes.
I'm doing this for 40 years, and I'm gonna try to win over 40 years. And the pro career is very much like that. It's, hey, there's going to be some tough days. You got to keep chugging and play for the long game. And Kyle Rudolph is someone who, regardless of what happens going forward, has won the long game. And that's not easy to do, and it says a lot about who he is as a person, as a player. And so kudos to you for winning the long game, and let's keep winning the long game.
Absolutely.